And welcome to the first session of the concluding day of ICA Regional Hub Conference, Kolkata. For the last 2 days, we have listened to some fantastic sessions with some fantastic speakers with us, erudite speakers with us, and this session will be added to that list. Today's session, the topic is language, markets and media, inequalities in global and vernacular communication. In this session also, we have some very erudite speakers and we are privileged to welcome them. 2 of them will be physically present on the stage and two others will be joining us online. So let me welcome the speakers who are present here. First, I'd like to call upon Professor Mrinal Chatterjee, former professor and head in Indian Institute of Mass Communication, Dhenkanal, Odisha. Sir, I would welcome you on stage.
Ask the technical team to make the
Before I call the second speaker who is physically present here, I would ask my technical team to please show other speakers who are joining online on screen. It's our pleasure to welcome Dr. Juana Joya, Senior Lecturer, INTI International University, Malaysia. Ma'am, welcome to our show.
Thank you. Thank you. I hope I'm audible.
Yes, ma'am, you are audible. I hope Mr. Ashish Joshi has also joined my team. Okay, Professor Joshi is yet to join. So let me welcome Dr. Sadia Azim, COO, Bangla Shahata Kendra, Government of West Bengal. Please come on stage, ma'am. And then I will like to call the moderator, Mr. Arindam Basu, Assistant Professor, Department of Journalism and Mass Communication, Sister Nivedita University, to come on stage. Let me give a small introduction of all our esteemed speakers. Professor Mrinal Chatterjee is a journalist turned media academician. He is presently working as Professor of Practice in Odisha University of Technology and Research, Bhubaneswar, after his superannuation as Professor of Communication at the East India campus of Indian Institute of Mass Communication, Dhenkanal, Odisha. He also served as Regional Director of IIMC Dhenkanal for several years. He did DLIT and PhD from Berhampur University and Masters in English, Public Administration and JMC from Utkal and GJ University. He has authored 9 books and contributed 12 book chapters on mass communication. He also writes fiction, plays, and columns. Many of his novels have been translated into several Indian and foreign languages. His research interests including pedagogical innovation, environment, comic art, and partition films. I have the privilege to call Professor Durgesh Tripathi sir on stage to felicitate Professor Mrinal Chatterjee sir. Professor Durgesh Tripathi on stage. I'd request Dr. Durgesh Tripathi sir to stay on stage to felicitate Sadia ma'am. Dr. Sadia Azam is the author of the new release, Forwarded as Received, How Misinformation Turns Viral, Violent, and True. Her work examines how rumors, forwarded narratives, and platform-driven misinformation travel through digital networks and acquire the force of social reality. Dr. Azim is the Chief Operating Officer of the Government of West Bengal's Digital Public Service Delivery Program, where she leads Bangla Shohayata Kendra, one of India's largest grassroots digital governance programs with over 10,000 operators serving citizens through more than 5,000 digital kiosks. A former journalist with over 25 years of experience, she has worked at the intersection of digital governance, public diplomacy, inclusive communication, and citizen-centered service delivery. Thank you, Dr. Dhrugesh Tripathi, sir. Let me introduce our other esteemed speakers who are joining online. Dr. Juana Joya, she is an accomplished academic and higher education leader with over 20 years of experience in communication management and global engagement. She holds a PhD in management from INTI International University, where her research focused on talent, human values, cultural diversity, and strategic communication in Malaysia's private higher education sector. Currently serving as senior lecturer at INTI International University, she has spearheaded numerous MOUs and academic collaborations across Asia, Europe, and the Middle East, strengthening international partnerships and mobility opportunities. A prolific researcher, she has published widely on communication, higher education, health communication, and sustainability. Ma'am, we welcome once again in our show. And I suppose Professor Ashish Joshi hasn't joined yet, right? Okay, we will start the program and Professor Ashish Joshi will join later. Let me introduce the moderator of the program, Mr. Arindam Basu. He is a journalist turned academician and English honors graduate from St. Xavier's College. He is a topper from the University of Calcutta in Master in Journalism and Mass Communication. He also holds a first-class diploma in PR and advertisement management, besides certificates in AI, digital marketing, and fact-checking. Having worked as a journalist for about 2 decades in various organizations, including UNI, NewsX, Sports Illustrated, he now teaches at Sister Nivedita University as an assistant professor in the Journalism and Mass Communication Department, lectures on best communication practices on various issues at different universities, and independently works as a media and communication consultant to brands. He has written 5 books and is a dedicated theater activist. And last but not the least, we are friends for over 30 years. So, Arindam Basu, he is the moderator of the program, and I would request Professor Shubha H.S. ma'am to go on stage to felicitate Arindam Basu, sir. Now over to Arindam.
Hello. Unlike the other sessions, we are not heading to the podium. We'll speak from here. It makes it much more comfortable for everyone. The topic that we have today, you already have seen. I would like to break the topic into 3 parts. That makes it easier. 1, language, dominant language. 2, vernacular language. And 3, the importance of AI, both as an elixir and an obstacle. So how we use AI is basically the question here. So having broken it into 3 parts, I would just like to introduce the concept, as many of you would already know, Pierre Bourdieu's concept of linguistic dominance, where a language becomes so important, so dominant, that it tries to engulf all other languages. In case of India and a greater part of the globe, it's English. which has become the dominant language of communication and official communication. So in face of that, are we losing the vernacular language both in the Indian context and globally? So I would like to begin with Joya ma'am. She's joined us from Malaysia. Ma'am, there is a thriving vernacular language in Malaysia, starting from Malay to the indigenous Malaysian languages to Cantonese and Tamil and other languages that are there. But do you think that the inherent inequality of vernacular language also exists in South Asia in the context? You can open with your broader remark and then come to my question.
Okay, so I think first of all, when I got this particular topic, right, I was discussing with my family. Some of them are online. And just so you know that I'm actually from a mixed background. And because of that, maybe a little bit biased on how I'm going to define, the main language or the vernacular language. But I think first and foremost, what I want to say is, I think same thing like in India or in Malaysia, we are a Commonwealth country. And I think ever since independence, we had, different processes of development, and it allowed people to develop, and, people wanted education. Yeah. So in Malaysia, we started, at least in the 1970s, people started going to the UK to study, going to America to study, going to Australia to study. So, of course, I think there has been a change in ensuring we study in English. And don't forget, like, I think my mom or my dad who's here will tell you that, they studied in their primary school and secondary school in English, actually. And then, when it goes to development after development, our universities in Malaysia at the moment, all university is an English-speaking campus, except for one university, which they're slowly changing into into an English-speaking campus. However, yes, now you were talking about inequality in terms of language. I don't see it that way. I still think, we do maintain our different languages. However, because of social norms, okay, I don't speak Tamil. My dad speaks Tamil, but I don't speak Tamil. My dad reads Tamil, doesn't read Tamil. So I think because you grow and because of, the different developments and different needs to having that language, right? I don't speak Tamil, but you see, for me, I grew up speaking English more than even Malay. Maybe because of the background that I have or the comfort that I have. But, because I'm in media and because our medias in Malaysia still have, I would call it by percentage, yeah? Because in Malaysia, of course, a lot of you know, we have different backgrounds of people. And we have, like, say, for example, 40% is Malay, and then we have about 30% that is Chinese, 10% that is Indians, and the percentage goes on. So in terms of that, we also, to a certain extent, I believe, the medias that we have followed that majority to minority, medias. So, of course, we still have our main medias that is in Malay. We still have medias that, we have to ensure that we have Mandarin. And we still have, medias that is written in Tamil or, broadcast in Tamil. The only thing is, I think, sometimes we also as Malaysia, we don't promote our Borneo part where we have Sabah and Sarawak. Even though we don't have their languages because they have too many tribes, but we still have radio stations or broadcast stations that are focused into ensuring that the people of Sabah and the people of Sarawak is being heard. Now, I'm actually quite surprised that you actually mentioned Cantonese. Cantonese, well, I can say it's a vernacular language among the Chinese people because they're a smaller group of people. And of course, in schools or in Chinese schools, they speak more of the Mandarin language, where, of course, it's among the Chinese language, Mandarin is a more global language compared to Cantonese or Hokkien. So I think at my point, I would want everybody to, also speak because they are more experienced than I am. But I think, to me, it's not really an inequality problem yet. It might look like it to everybody, but I think it's more of a social norm that we don't protect it or we don't really use it. I think that's one thing I want to say. I will stop here first, allow all my other panels to also mention.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you so much. The reason why I purposely talked about Cantonese and not Mandarin, because Mandarin would be the dominant language, and then there would be a subsection who would be speaking Cantonese. So that was the reason why I was talking about Cantonese and not Mandarin. So now, Minal sir, your opening remarks on the topic, if you can.
Please don't get intimidated by looking at the papers on my hand. This proves that I have worked very hard for this session and I have worked it out. Now, coming back to Arindam's question, opening remarks, there are actually three. Yes, we are facing language inequality. There's a gentleman called Dr. Kai L. Chan. He has recently developed what he calls Power Language Index. And in 5-6 matrices, like population, impact, academic papers, etc. I mean, there are 5-6 matrices. And the top, obviously, is English. Happily, Hindi is the 10th in that list, preceded by Japanese and Portuguese. So what I'm trying to tell you that, yes, especially a multilingual country like India, where we have 22 official languages, and if we put other languages, dialects, etc., it will be more than nearly 20,000 languages that we have. There are many which do not have even script. And every year, that is UNESCO's report, every year we are losing languages. And languages is not just a medium of communication. With a language, we carry forward our culture. With a language is our identity. There are stories, there are indigenous knowledge ingrained in that language. So when one language dies or gets pushed to the fringe, we are losing all this. So it's important that every language should have access to people. And here comes the role of technology, here comes the role of adaptability of that language. I believe with technology, this can be done. I mean, Will it be done? Depends on us. Can it be done? Yes. Right. Now, in our discussion, maybe we will try to find out ways and the fault lines, why this, and the causes, why a language dominates like it does. So maybe in our course of discussion, we will try to find out answers to these questions, and we will devote more probably time to find out ways how can we kind of provide an equal playing field for all languages to survive. Thank you.
Thoughts, please.
Thank you. Like I would speak with the perspective that, how digital communication has taken mainstream. And as we see, we are moving completely digital, like using technology to be able to communicate. Languages becomes, all the more important. And we see digital infrastructure in terms of only technology, whether internet has reached people, whether people have the device to be able to talk or not. But we will have to understand that what kind of content or what information is being shared through it, and there communication disparity or communication inequality comes to the fore. Once we try and understand that if a powerful language or a dominant language is basically dominating the conversation or dominating the public sphere, obviously people who are not able to communicate in that language are left behind. And if they are left behind, that's where the inequality comes in. Now, as Professor Chatterjee rightly said, that basically, several of the indigenous knowledge or the way of expression, stories. So we can't let all this go or wane away, because one powerful dominant language is dominating. Now, you might ask that language has been, universally used and everybody is using it. Not everybody. That's where inequality comes in, where we push people with a different kind of means of expression, different language, or maybe not as dominant as language, but they do have the knowledge, do have the expressions, to be there as a part of the knowledge ecosystem. So language plays, and I think, we have reached that stage where language should also be a part of the infrastructure. Otherwise, there is a greater chance that we will push people more towards inequality. See, the measures, the parameters in which we judge inequality could be different because we are not considering language as yet as a part of that parameter. But it does play a major role in terms of, public, governmental, state-run communications, market-run communications. So if only powerful languages are able to dominate the ecosystem, they will only reach those people who express through it or who are able to be in that ecosystem. Those who are in the periphery will be led towards exclusion. So I think language should be made an infrastructure, and it does play a part like that.
Absolutely, very potent points have come out, which actually leads me to the next part. Let's bring in media here now. Now we have been talking about language and inequality, and now let us bring in media. Again, this question is for both of you. From your perspectives, if you can tell us, how much do you think the media ownership patterns and the importance of the urban centric and the money that circulates with it have been one of the reason for this language disparity? The policies that are taken by the media houses, like they would like to launch an English channel or an Hindi channel in India because that gives you more revenue, you have a more reach, you have better TRP. So what is your idea about it? What is your opinion about it? And is there a way out of this vicious cycle wherein we only go because this is a proven track for success? We do not experiment. Absolutely. And so what happens, the regional languages or the vernacular languages remain what will I say, trapped in the world of YouTubes or smaller portals. So that is the point.
A good question. First, first thing first. Media, why media, say, opens a channel, whether it in English or Hindi or vernacular languages? Let's understand this, that media, after all, is also a business. They will look at scale. They will look at market, right? So therefore, they will obviously go for the dominant language or language which can give them some benefit, some market benefit. So for example, in English, it's an aspirational language, and we have this feeling that the middle class and upper middle class and rich class, they speak in English. So there will be more advertisement of classy objects in English rather than Hindi or Bangla or whatever. So there are market imperatives. So there are certain market imperatives. If there are more takers for a particular language content, then the mainstream media will also go for that. Let me give you 2-3 concrete examples. In Odisha, the chest Odia is the dominant language. But there are pockets where Samalpuri is dominant. So presently, there are several mainstream television channels who have dedicated programs in Samalpuri. It happened because there is a demand. So it's demand and supply. So mainstream media will always go by demand and supply. And that's precisely why even Bollywood films are now dubbed even in Bhojpuri, because there is a market. Are you getting my point? So what's the way out? The way out probably is threefold. One, if the speakers of that language can create that kind of demand or an impression that there is a demand, then probably the mainstream media will be forced to go into that language. That's number one. Number two, if media understands that there can be a latent kind of a demand, if not obvious, but latent, or it's a public service. Like say, for example, AIR, they broadcast their programs in very many languages. There may not be so many takers as in the dominant language, but they are doing it because it's a public service. If media takes it that way, then probably that will happen. And the third is technology. If we have devices, which we have now, which are costly now, but with scale, maybe the cost will come down, which can do simultaneous translations. So no matter in which language you broadcast or you print or you do, right, it will be automatically translated into the receiver's language, and you can get in the language in which you want it. It's already there in the market, the technology is there in the market, but there are certain problems which needs to be addressed. One is the translation. It should be smooth, and the nuances of the particular language should be put there. So maybe AI is looking after that, but we have to have that large language model in which this could be done. I'm very sure in another 2, 3, 5 years, this can be addressed. And then there will be the problem of cost. If the cost can be brought down, again by technology, again by scale, then probably these problems could be addressed. I rest here.
So I would, think a little differently because, I just want to understand whether by media systems you think it's a public service, or media initially, or journalism, in earlier days was a public service. So public service means you are able to, communicate with the last person. You're reaching everybody uniformly, or providing the opportunity or the ecosystem to reach all citizens. Now, in our case, we are seeing the changing scenario where media systems have become market oriented. That is a product which is, technology backed. And we also have to understand that if there is a changed scenario, there's a transition in the entire ecosystem where technology companies are developing things what they think is required, where it would um, generate money. And if money is the factor, then we are a part of that ecosystem, you know which is actually creating inequality. We are pushing people to periphery who are not able to be part of that ecosystem or generate the kind of money. So all the communication, if it is happening only with people, only with the haves, people who are able to generate money, who would communicate, who would develop platforms, who would develop content and push it to the other people, who would not able to express themselves, then they are not a part of that ecosystem. And they are there. Here is a clear-cut example of how inequality takes shape. So this is my point of view. So we will have to, like even the state or the societies will have to understand whether they want to be a part of the mainstream ecosystem. And if they want to be a part of the mainstream ecosystem, there has to be clear-cut policies to reach out to the last person. And that's how you bring, uniformity.
That would largely be a government initiative when it comes to
Not just government initiative, but it should be a societal initiative. The demand for it must also come because, they are a part of a system. They are a part of the ecosystem. So if they're a part of an ecosystem, societies will have to create that demand, which we were talking that most of it is demand oriented. So if it is demand oriented, either you plug it into the public service, part of it, or you plug it to the general markets. Markets they don't run alone. They run in societies. So, like even markets will have to be, they have to be interdependent.
they have to fall in line with the societal. Yes, sir.
Anupam, I'm very happy that Shadia ma'am has brought in this. She had made a clear distinction between the market imperative and the societal initiative. Let me flag certain clear-cut ideas and certain clear-cut ways in which this inequality could be addressed by societal intervention. Let me tell you about the role the civil society, the educated class in classrooms like this, students, teachers, they can play a role in bridging this inequality. Consider the algorithm in which AI works, the platforms work, right? If you have something, say, in English, then probably it will grow. It comes in a loop. You know that. All technology driven people know this. So if in vernacular languages, the literate class, the teachers, students, they create more content in the digital ecosphere, the algorithm will see that those are picked up and those are plowed back. So one reason why people gravitate towards the dominant language, especially the student class and the teachers, that you get more knowledge, more information in a particular language ecosphere, and also traction. So if you get that information, that knowledge in a language in which you are more comfortable with, and not you are going to a dominant language because it is available there, then probably you will move towards this language. So if we create more content and keep it in digital ecosphere, chances are we are increasing that knowledge domain, that we are enriching that language. So here the role of the society comes. And if you actually use it more, if you use Bangla more in digital ecosphere, if you use Odia more in digital ecosphere instead of English or Mandarin or Western languages in which there are more information available, and so you are automatically enriching your language. So this is one way.
I'll just give you a small example. You know, if you all have noticed in Twitter particularly, there is a way to translate it. So whichever language it comes in, so there is a market, you know, where big tech companies are basically playing a very active role in terms of, you know, translating it on real time on a particular post or something. So the market is there, you know. The point is how we are able to grab it, where your original comes in a certain language and then it's translated, you know, into the dominant language, which could be English in this case.
So I'll come back to Joya. She's been hearing very patiently, I think. Like, we are talking about the societal influence. And in the age of AI, how much do you think the creative economy, as we call it, the independent content producers, what role could they play to bridge this divide, by creating more and more content in the regional languages, in the vernacular languages, and once they get popular, they can become a part of the dominant culture. I'll give you an Indian example. You may not be aware of it, you may be aware of it. There was this peanut seller from Bengal. He had created a song, Kacha Badam. And it was a cultural thing. Now, Kacha Badam from a cultural thing became a cultural content when it was picked up by a couple of people and they danced with it. And once it went viral, this Kacha Badam, this absolutely rural Bengal song, people were dancing to it, including cricketers and celebrities across the world. So somehow this song, people looped in to understand the meaning of the song also. And this song became a global rage. And so what role do you think these content creators, the Instagrammers, the YouTubers, the short format content creators, what kind of effect they can have in bridging this inequality?
Thank you, thank you. Okay, first of all, I just want to add, if I may, a few points to the previous question that I think
Absolutely.
based on Malaysian context, I think, it will go, I think my answers will go into the question that you've asked me. So I think I agree with my two fellow panelists. Number one, I think we have to understand our media needs money. Money is everything, and there's always a demand and supply. And I think the next point I want to add is also globalization. And I think because of we actually, to be very frank, I believe media in Malaysia is way much smaller, or in terms of how do I say, worldwide spread. We're still smaller compared to India. We talk about Bollywood. We don't have Malaysia wood. You know what I mean? So in that context, I think you're still way much more aggressive in your media compared to us. But we do have our satellites. We have Astro, for example. Astro, like I mentioned, yes, now when it comes to supply and demand, it's a private station. And it is one of the stations that, have a lot more globalized mediums or channels and language. And then, of course, you have Radio Television and Malaysia, which is RTM. It's a public, it's a more public, but again, there's supply and demand. Now, I think I'm going to come into your question. I think in the 30 years or 20 years that I've, experienced media, being a producer myself, seeing people on TV, know some people in TV or broadcast, and of course, part and parcel of being a lecturer, we must make sure that our students are, industry relevant, right? So in Malaysia, I think, believe our Bahasa Malaysia, like I mentioned earlier, may look vernacular to you, but for us it's still quite dominant. Even to a certain extent, Mandarin per se is quite dominant, not really a vernacular. But then again, when you look into schools, it's probably a different ball game altogether because of, like I mentioned just now, the minority of people. And then I think, like I mentioned just now, for the past 20 years or maybe 30 years, you know, because of globalization, I particularly believe the Indian community that we have, of course, we also have Punjabi community. There's some who are, you know, from Pakistan or you know, Bengalis per se. You know, there was a point in time where Hindi was now, you know, slowly getting more attention. And that's why in Malaysia as well, instead of watching more Tamil movie, people were watching more Hindi movie, you know. And again, let's go into demand and supply. Because of that, I think, you know, Hindi movies have become that. So in terms of content for our, you know, our medias, we pick Hindi, for example. And then I think for the past, 10 years, because of popular culture, one of the biggest popular culture is the Korean language. And just so you know, a lot of Malaysians are now at least understanding Korean language. And you know, they go for in Korean. And if you, the Netflix package that we have a lot of Hindi movies. We have a lot of Korean languages as well as Turkish languages. So now, because of that, if you see in many of our students, our students or our youth, they kind of start the content in terms of using these languages. So in a way, it becomes like a global vernacular language, let's put it that way. And just so you know, because of that, I think I want to say again, social norms, our media has also picked that up. You know, so but we still try to maintain all of our languages accordingly. There is a policy that we still have that. You know, what is that? That means we still have the percentage of making sure our media, you know, at least our main medias are in Malay or in English because we want to be globalized. We still have the Mandarin channels, Cantonese channels, Tamil channels. But now, because of AI and the new technology and the new globalization, we have injected other languages into it. Now, maybe also would this now, I think maybe a question that I will put into the question, right? Is this going to jeopardize certain culture because we inject other global trending language? I'm going to say yes and no because it really depends on the trend. Maybe right now it's just a Korean, you know, they call it the Korean pop culture, right? So that there are certain, you know, content where we use Ana Aseo, for example. Yeah. And I think because of this, sorry, I'm taking a bit of time. Because of this, in Malaysia, I think one of our, I don't know whether to say it's a problem. I don't see it as a problem as well. You will notice that people will talk Manglish. I'm not sure whether you know, you've heard this. We have Manglish. That means Malay plus English.
And in English, yeah.
Yeah, and then you have, you know, people speaking Tamil and Malay. You know, and you have people speaking Mandarin and maybe Korean, for example. So these are all, you know, by traditional culture. If I were to say, you know, my grandma, for example, they'll say, "What are you speaking about? You know, that's not good." But today, because of globalization, right? We have to do that so that people, because of the demand and supply, people will now listen more. You get what I mean? So today's in front of our, even even in some of our main national songs, we will hear different languages, you know. So I think these are some of the things that I want to mention. Maybe I've not completely answered your question, but at least some of the pointers that I want to say. Yeah, and I think we can have more discussion because I think, you know, I'm taking a bit of time. So let our two panels to, you know, also answer those questions. I think it's a very important question that you've had answered. The content, how we, I think some people, some media will say we have to control the traditional language. Some media will say let's control to make sure it's globalized. And then some media will say we have to make money. So I think, you know, let our two panels also discuss that point. Thank you.
Thank you. No, you are absolutely to the point. But I would take the same question to both of you. Like, for example, that song, Manike Mange Hite. So it became a rage across. How many of us knew the meaning of the song? None. But it was a content that was generated. So what role do you think this content generators or this creative economy that we call so stylistically nowadays, yes, the orange economy, okay, what role could they play? Say supposing someone, like we all know that Gond is becoming a very rare language. It will, if it's not nurtured, it might die a few years down the line. So supposing a young man or a woman starts talking about the history of Gond, because as you said, when a language dies, an entire civilization dies. Its history, its culture, its economy, its war, its geography, its cultural connect with the geography, all of it dies. So how important is the role of these independent content creators, and how could they add to this, to bridging this divide, you know?
I look at this way, be it Manike Mani Hite or Kacha Badam, or in Odisha we have this song called Rangavati, and it became a rage to whole India wide. These are trigger points. Consider this. Either they are trigger points if they are they are followed by that quality of music or films, like Korean films, for example, had done. They have become a rage with Gen Zs. And many young students and many young people have learned a bit of Korean thanks to Korean rom-coms. So if you ask me, will the content creators with a song which become a rage can play a very big role in sustaining that language? I say no. But it can act as a trigger point. If it is sustained, I mean, only one Kacha Badam will not do. If there are several Kacha Badams or Paka Kola or whatever, what have you, sustained, then probably people of other language will sit up and notice, oh my God, there are such a rich, there is a scope of further going. It happens once in a blue moon, it will be a flash in the pan and it will just trigger. But however, having said that, even that triggering has some contribution. I mean, yes, we shouldn't deny the contribution of even a trigger, even a flash, right? But if you have to sustain and if you have to preserve a language, then there has to be more. The effort has to be more. There could be government initiatives, there could be social initiatives, there could be technological interventions, and there could be wise use of, say, technologies which we have had. So, for example, radio. So, for example, the role community radio or even internet radio can play. Let me give you an example of a small radio, internet radio station, which a school in rural Odisha. It's in Koraput district, ma'am. is in Rayagada district actually. For many, it's back of the beyond. It's almost in the border of Rayagada. There's a school called Bileshu High School. I'm sure many of you might not have even heard of that village or that school. In that school, they started an internet radio. One good teacher, small help from the government, and they started. And they created program in the local tribal dialect. In India, we have 443 tribal languages. Many of them do not have script. So you have no way to preserve their writings, right? So it's only story, only you hear and pass on to the next generation, right? So in this scenario, radio comes very handy. And this school has been doing that for quite some time now. And the school children, they create programs, right? It gives me an idea what has prevented other schools, good schools. It doesn't require a lot of money to operate an internet radio. And these days, everybody and their uncle and auntie has a mobile phone. We have in places, density goes like above 100%. So that could be done. Community radio stations can play a very big role, especially in states where there are more tribal and marginalized communities. Let me give you another example from Odisha. Odisha has about 40 plus community radio stations. Half of these community radio stations are located in tribal dominated districts. So in those areas, some radio stations, especially radio stations like Radio Dhimsa, Radio Hirakot, they are doing wonderful work in creating content in their local language. Radio Dhimsa, almost 80% of their content is in Desia language. Desia is the lingua franca in that area, right? So community radio stations can come forward to create programs in those languages, which will keep the language flowing. Language dies like rivers if it doesn't flow. It has to flow. It has to be used. It has to be in circulation. So radio stations, small groups, even social media groups, they can play a very big role in keeping a language which is on the verge of extinction alive.
Sadia, your comments briefly. After that, we'll take some questions.
Yes. So I would, see it, I mean, like mostly when we were talking about some of the Sinhali song or, like Uriya song getting mainstream, that's the trigger points are basically the scope of the market. I mean, you have to understand that if something goes so viral, as I told you earlier, we are at that stage now because we are going digitally. We are still not comfortable with the digital communication. Like they have not taken over your everyday language. So we are in a transition stage. This is one time where you could actually explore. I mean, there is a market, which you can explore as to how bring in several other languages also mainstream. So you would understand that if, Professor Jaya can mention about how Hindi has taken, a kind of small percentage in Malaysia, if that can be popularized, you have to attribute it to, valuable content, which is Bollywood. Hindi movies are popular everywhere. Korean serials are popular in India where people do not understand. So you would understand that there is a market for good quality content. And quality content comes, the language is used and quality content comes in. The power of culture is the uniqueness of it. And the power of culture is the stories they carry. Language is the medium through which that culture is communicated. So here is the market. Think about quality content in that particular culture. Think about the uniqueness of it. And I think, using, and technology is a support system. So you can think about the possibility of a big market there, and content creators can actually explore it.
Yes, we'll take some questions. Just one last comment. I think Government of India has started certain initiative where they are preserving languages, rare languages, and they are archiving it.
Absolutely. There are several such initiatives, and there are some good initiatives
Exactly.
like Bhashini, like AICT has also started one. And another aspect is opportunity to use your own language in day-to-day activities. Towards this area, government, in the central government and several state governments, I'm sure the West Bengal government must have such initiatives. They have created portals where you can interact with
In the local language.
in your local language. So that is another area in which if you can, get information in your local language, which is necessary for your day-to-day activities, that is one good step to use that particular language.
So questions? Anyone? Yes. So can I have the microphone on the floor?
Well, this is a question more for Dr. Chatterjee. You said a statement like, language should be kept flowing, otherwise it dies, just like a river. In this context, I mean, and that will refute one point. I mean, it's not something to be, though the initiative is appreciated, of archiving languages. Archiving languages means those languages we keep except that they are dead. So to keep the languages alive, I think it should be kept flowing. So one of the reasons, maybe, I mean, it's my deduction. You can say, why did say Sanskrit die? Why isn't it a flowing language? So, and the consequences of, Sanskrit going dead means that was a root language which could keep all these thousands of languages in India, which of these root languages, it could have been part of the networking. In fact, there should be, and there are some efforts to revive Sanskrit, making it into a talking language, and bring up this, the networking part, linking up which it will do a lot of service in terms of bringing an unity to the country itself. We accuse English language of being, if we looking at it as culturally and another thing, it has been, exploitative, it is colonial, and it has been dropped. But then it did, as a language, it did a service to bring all these different languages in India together. In fact, we have this north-south divide in India itself, and the controversy, political controversy with Hindi, for example, which is not accepted in the south. So reviving Sanskrit could have been, an answer to having an unitary language. And I think the digital, with the digital communication system could do a lot of service in bringing back the language itself. Your opinion, Dr.
Sir, to answer 3-4, Buddha Shibda is very clever. See, in 1-2 sentences, he has asked 3-4 questions. So, first thing first, 1, why Sanskrit didn't become lingua franca of a community, of entire India? The answer is rigidity. It became so rigid, and there was a tendency to hold on to it and not giving access to that language for others, to the masses. These are the two major reasons why Sanskrit did not become language of people. Lesson learned, we have to make language accessible. We have to give access to people to that language, which in case of Sanskrit, because the scripts were there and the scripts are the domain of this, there was another politics and economic angle to it. I'm not going into that. That's number one. Number two, why archiving is necessary? Because of three clear reasons. One, there are some languages which are on the verge of extinction. Almost on the verge of extinction. There are several languages in which this number of speakers are less than 1,000, less than 100. There are just
Villages in
one.
South India, where I'm forgetting the name of the village I was reading, there are only 3 people alive.
That's what I'm saying.
So
there were only
once the 3
three.
people dies, that language completely dies.
So in this situation, the only way to preserve that language is to archive, is to let that lady and the two
Speak.
other persons
Speak about the traditions, yes.
so that we can keep that, so that the posterity knows language like this
Was there.
was there. That's number one reason. Number two reason is language changes over time. 100 years ago, the way Bangla used to be spoken is not the way we speak Bangla now. 100 years ago, the way Odia was spoken is not the way we speak or write Odia now. So if we archive, then we will be in a position to know for sure what has been the change. That's number two. And number three, probably it will give jobs to professors like us. That's the answer to question number two. Question number three. Who will be doing this? Will this only be the government work? उनको ठेका दे रखा है, सारी काम वही करें? I guess my answer will be no. People's archive, right? That is also necessary. And these days with technology, any institution with small resources also can do little bit of this. Maybe this could be ingrained in academic structure, right? So that, say for example, in sociology, in anthropology, in literature, so that people can go far and collect songs, collect stories, collect words, idioms, sayings, proverbs, and archive it. Because in another 100 years, most of these things will go. Words. Are you aware that every year, 300 plus words are just going extinct? They are no more used. Because the context of use of that word is gone. Consider in Bangla, ghar chhauni jokhon hoy, I'm sure, ghar chhauni is, we have had thatched houses, right? So there were words for everything. The bamboo, size of the bamboo, there was a word for it. The way you put it, the thatches, there is a word for that. Because we are no longer using that, all those words are also becoming extinct. So if we archive it now, then probably we will have a history, an authentic history. And that's why these are important. And that's why it's important to do it now by the educational institutions, by civil society organizations, by organizations which are public-minded, so that all those cultural gems,
Nuances can be
preserved.
kept.
Thank you.
And just adding a little bit, Sanskrit has always been the elitist kind of a language. That's the reason Prakrit came. Prakrit came so that the texts in Sanskrit could be explained in the common man's language. So Sanskrit never wanted to be the language of the masses. That is also a point. Next, yes, sir, Mike.
I am Ranu. Thank you for very enlightening expression regarding language. I have two questions. First for you, Professor Chatterjee. Kindly allow me to problematize. I'm sorry.
No gender bias. Only Mr. Chatterjee, no.
Sure, I'll try. Kindly allow me to problematize my curiosity. During the discussion, there was mention that every individual is offered inconvenience of identity with language. I would like to know from you that how this vernacular language and preserving any language requires integration of national interest also. So every time, perhaps language is also taken as a tool for nationalism, and perhaps it offers further politicized agenda also. So I want to know that how vernacular relation doesn't go with the national interest. And that's why dominant language becomes fearful, that why many vernacular languages are emerging so powerful on the platform. So I would like to seek clarity on this first. And second, quick question to Professor Joanna, if she is there. I would like to know, she mentioned about that she doesn't speak Tamil or any other language which is not coming in her context. Coming from the social location which you prefer of your experiences, are you still feeling that there is emergence of new social linguistic identity for you, which is giving you better experiences in the intersectional map of the society? So I would like to know these two things. Thank you so much.
Very interesting questions. Sir, what I think she was asking in the first question was regional languages or smaller languages, they say, supposing a smaller channel, they are starting to get more revenue because they are now becoming more potent. So the dominant channel wants to buy it off either commercially, okay, or see it as a threat to its existence. So it's better to bring it in my fold and regulate and run it the way I want to run it, rather than let it grow and flourish on its own and become a trigger point for other regional languages also to come up in the same manner. Means it's like a path less traveled. Am I correct? Yes.
Is this your question? So it pertains to management area
Exactly.
altogether, isn't it? Big fish eating small fish to feed its belly, something like that. In this case, I guess if it's a smaller channel, then it will be onus is on that small channel whether to remain independent or whether to go into a big channel and be a part of it, right? That's what I can say you about this particular question.
I can actually give you one small example. So there are these this super malls, okay, and they sell. There are huge bookstores, and then there is a corner bookstore also. So there is space for both that corner bookstore and that mall with that bigger bookstore. There will be people who would like to visit that corner bookstore for nostalgia, for reliving the past, for having an identity with it. So all of that will ultimately harness the existence of a lesser uh, being, in this case language. I use the example of books because we are talking about language. It can be anything. And the bigger bookstore in a super mall, it's like the global thing where you have everything spread out and you pick your taste according to the seasons. So I think that is it. Now, Joanna, over to you. She's asked you the question. Yeah.
I think that's a very interesting question, and I think it's a very cute question. That's how I would say that. First of all, I just want to acknowledge. I think I've learned a lot from Prof, and of course, Malaysia has a different scenario compared to India. And when we come to language, the Malay language, let's just take the national language. It's still a very young language. Malay language is only 80,000 words, and if I'm not mistaken, and I think, I think as a whole in India, you have about what, not language, two words. You have nearly 2 million words in your total language. So you can say ours is very young. In fact, we sometimes say that some of the words that we get is also coming from Sanskrit. Our words are from Sanskrit. We have Greek. We have, of course, from Indonesia. That's where we have a lot of similarities. So I also want to just, because I'm listening to all these things, I just also want to say, or just chip in a little bit. In Malaysia, I don't know whether, it's very different. We have different slangs, and the originality of the language, especially the Malay language, is definitely still in the school. But again, it's a very, very young language, so it's still very much put together by policies. But we have slangs. 13 states in Malaysia, we have different slangs. So I also want to add, maybe it works. I'm not so sure. Like when I was in school, not just school, even in university, right? I had to do like 4 modules of Malay language. And when I saw that, I'm like, why do I need to do 4 different modules of Malay language? But then I realized each language had its different agenda. So I believe that, even in India, if you want to sustain certain languages, you kind of develop modules or create certificates to have that particular agenda. What is that agenda? I can't say for sure. But for us, when I was in university, the first language was to make sure that we polish our traditional Malay language. And then it went up to learning the royal language. So a lot of us in the media, and coming from our university, see, our medias have protocol. Example, we have, when I say I, in Malay, there's 3 different ways of saying I. One is the traditional, not traditional, but the formal language, we say saya. And then we say aku, which is street language. And then royal is pate. So, when I say the street language, which is aku, the media itself has its own investigation because we can't say a street language. So, I guess, like I said, it's 2 different paradigms. I just wanted to chip in, what we do here. Again, we are very young language, and how we control our language. And of course, it's a language that we want it to blossom and always be there, as a patriotic language, which is Malay. Now, coming to the question that I was asked. First of all, I like traveling. I like traveling. I like culture. I love my ancestors. Actually, my grandparents are Sri Lankan, so of course they speak Sri Lankan Tamil. And I always say this. I love the language, but maybe it's something to also look at. Some people, we don't want to speak it or read it. We just want to see it as something we are proud of and we know the meaning and get through everyday life. So even though I don't speak it, I can understand. I mean, there's basic words that I can understand, Now, it's not just because I like traveling and all. I'm also married into a mixed culture. I'm not just coming from a mixed culture. I'm also married to a mixed culture. And my daughter speaks Arabic fluently. She speaks Malay fluently. And because she's also liking some Turkish movies, we are also learning that. So because I like globalization or traveling and all that, you know, I am so, how do I say, I'm so I'm so grateful for Google Translate. You know, I think with Google Translate, it's so easy to you know, to learn another people's language. And don't forget that sometimes if you go to Europe even, right, you can be in Switzerland, but you know, they're separated into sometimes the other common European language, which is French, yada yada yada. So you know, Google Translate has helped it. And I think depending on where I am, like you were mentioning, you know, I think not where I am. I think it's because of the trend. Yeah, let's talk about trend first. Maybe because I mean, we are academics, right? And we want to also see our student become successful. For me, my agenda for my student become successful is for them to be globalized. So that's why, to a certain extent, I always tell them, like, look, learn the main big languages of the world and still, of course, remember your language, of course, you know. So with that, I've always, you know, tell them to learn that. And because of that, every time also, wherever that I go, I try to make sure that I learn a few words of that particular country's language. Like, you know, you go to you go to Italy, you learn certain language, and then you find out that some of this language will be you know, interesting to you. Like, for example, in Italy, they say hello, ciao. You know, ciao in Malaysia, sometimes we just say bye bye. It's totally different. So I think it's really, I think the word that I want to say is it really depends on one, a trend, one, a liking. I am going to really say that because of my background, I even though I don't really speak much Tamil, I do understand it. I do try to make out that word. Right now, my husband is an Arabic speaker. My daughter learns Arabic from him. I understand. I don't speak it out. Because of certain common words, I know how to say certain things in Turkish. I make it out of it. Of course, there's similarity in the Indonesian language. Even though there's similarity, there's a lot of different. But yeah, I think we then, you know, you need to know how to accommodate depending on where you are, which media is going to call you, which conference is going to call you. You know, I think those are certain factors. So I think in a nutshell, the word is globalization, depending on how you want to be international. Thank you.
Question from Jumur.
Good morning, all. Very insightful panel discussion. My one question is that when in our panel we have discussed about the language inequalities, dying language, dying words, I just want to know that regarding the Gen Z language, because they have actually created their universal language scope, and right now they have also part of our mainstream workforce, because the Gen Z, that means that 1997, that and after 1997, already they have casted their vote, and already and I have observed one thing, that if the member of the Gen Z, if they don't have access, a very good access towards digital communication, but still they have their own language code and as well as the slang. So I think the new inequalities, it is actually emerging, the equalities actually emerging as age, that we are those who are not Gen Z and those who are Gen Z. So what should be our future policy to like incorporate them, and as well as in the digital sphere, they are not only contributing, they are also producing content also. So how can we map and how can we actually adjust with this, and how can we learn their language? This is very important.
Sadia, address it from Delulu and Rotofel to
So thank you, Jumur, for this question. It's very interesting, and it actually sums up whatever we have been discussing all this while. Because, try and understand, language is a tool. So most of the language are interdependent, across border. They are borderless. You cannot preserve it at a certain place. It just flows like a river, like an ocean, actually. So whichever language has more, like dominant characters at a certain time, at one time, if all the literature was written in Sanskrit was popular, like when all the literature was written in any other language. English is today, so English dominates, and English is also getting a kind of assistance because of the technological support. So most of the people who spoke English were also developing technology, so they developed technology to support that language first, and then it's actually spilling out to other languages. Now the question comes in about digital natives, which is the Gen Z. They are digital natives. They also communicate to human beings, and they are equally communicating to the system, which is technology, which is your computer. So, they have found a way to communicate it easily, not just to human beings, but also to others. This is one language which is growing. Gradually, if it has got potential, if it has got good content, if it creates, valuable content, literature, fiction, it will spill over. Don't worry, you will learn it, because interesting content will always take over. They will be dominant. My take was basically why this inequality is at this point. Most of these smaller or vernacular languages have not taken mainstream because they do not have the kind of support, technological support, as the dominant language English is having today. But that doesn't mean that will remain forever. There is an opportunity. Vernacular languages are gaining grounds. There are Tigger examples which we just discussed. So you can imagine, if you produce like really good content, it will take over minds of people. It will gain attention, and people will learn.
thank you. This brings us.
Jumur, you don't have to worry. From time immemorial, when people started speaking, every generation to generation, there will be new words in sync with the conditions, socio-political, economic condition. And every generation, older generation, will say, "Era ki bolche eguro kocha kichu boja jay na." Every generation, it has happened from the time when the language was invented. So don't worry about that. Some of those words will stick. Some of those words will go. But some of those words will stick. And we should see that those words should be taken into the
Nurtured
dictionary,
properly.
into regular use, which English and other dominant European languages, they do very religiously. We need to do that. I have been telling this in very many fora. In fact, Hindi started doing that, right? Can we have a body, like, so for example, Bangyo Sahitya Parishad or Odia Sahitya Academy, right? Like Oxford Dictionary does, or other several dictionaries do. In America, there is a body which does, right? Every year, they earmark a word, like this is the word of the year. And every year, certain new words are taken into the dictionary. And they are designated that they are regular words. Not slangs, not this, words. Can it be done in Bangla? Can it be done in Odia? Can it be done in all regional languages religiously every year? By doing that, we will not only increase the word counts in our language, but also give a voice to the dominant expressions of that generation. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, our esteemed panelists. Thank you, Jaya, for joining us from Malaysia. Thank you, Dr. Chatterjee, Dr. Azim. What I would just like to say, my concluding remark is that we did this show in English. Maybe 5 years down the line, we will do this show in Bangla, and all of you will have headphones that will translate it into your native languages. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, Arundam. Thank you, Professor Mrinal Chatterjee, Professor Juana Jaya, and Dr. Sadia Azim for joining us. I would like to request all of you to stay on stage for a minute, and I'd like to call upon Dr. Durgesh Tripathi sir and Dr. Minal Parekh ma'am to come on stage to hand over the certificates to the panelists.
कोट पहनना तो कभी तक अभी इसका इस्तेमाल हो जाएगा ना
Your e-certificate would reach you by afternoon. And thank you once again for joining. Hope to interact soon again. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Have a great day. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Yeah.
We will have a small tea break, and then we will start the technical sessions.
We have a traditional sweets canopy just outside the building. Those who are planning to buy Bengal sweets, please get your boxes done from there. And we also have a traditional Bengali couture shop and a pickle shop. So please feel free to take your remembrance of Bengal back home. He's announced.
And just to remind you all that we have a plenary session from 3 p.m. to 3:45 p.m. The topic is Who Owns Visibility, Media, Power and the Politics of Being Seen. The moderator will be Dr. Pritha Chakraborty, and the esteemed panelists will be Professor Survi Dahiya and Professor Shubha H.S., followed by the valedictory session.